Hi, coaches. Want to welcome everybody to the World Baseball Coaches Convention. I'm Scott Stricklin, head baseball coach here at the University of Georgia. Doing things a little bit differently this year. Obviously, have to do this via Zoom. I'll be having a PowerPoint. We're going to be talking about catching tonight and going over what I call the big three. We're going to talk about receiving. We're going to talk about throwing. We're going to talk about blocking. And what I like to do is I just love to show a lot of drills because I know as a coach, when I sit down on sessions, I like to see things. I'm very visual. I want to see how I can make my catchers better. So I love to watch the drills, and that's what I'm going to give you. I've created some of these. I've made some of these up, and I've stolen most of them, to be honest with you, at other conventions, going to watch other coaches present, and you kind of take and from guys that you really like and respect. And there's so many good catching guys out there. I think we all kind of steal from each other and kind of mold it into what we do for our own guys. So hope you enjoy this. And we're going to have a question and answer when we get done. And hopefully we can cover everything and be as detailed as possible. So first thing we're going to get into is our receiving. And when you get into receiving, you got to talk about your stances. You got to make sure that, number one, from your stances, you're not tipping any pitches. And when you get to the next level, when you're in college baseball and in pro baseball, we all know how important it is in professional baseball. That was such a big issue a couple of years ago with giving up signs and giving up pitches. And yeah, it was done a little bit differently, but catchers, if you're not doing things the right way, if you're setting up differently for different pitches, you're going to be tipping what you're giving. So in your signal calling stance, you need to make sure that you're not giving up your pitches any way, shape, or form. So we've got my two catchers here, Fernando and Corey, and you can see them just going through their signs, but their glove is off to the left side. Their signs are back up against their cup. They're not too far low. The only time I'm going to get my signs low is if the vision's really bad. If maybe the lights aren't very good. I can remember Sandy Alomar, when he caught with the Indians a lot of times in night games, he would put those signs down really low just so his pitcher could see them because the visibility wasn't very good. So if you're in that situation, the guy on second base probably isn't going to be able to see your signs very well anyway. But just make sure when you're giving those signs that you're not tipping anything. The other thing, the next thing we're going to move into is our primary stance. And we've got two different primary stances that we talk about, the one knee and the 2 feet. And one knee is kind of the in thing now. Pretty much you see every big league catcher doing it. And I was a guy that really didn't talk about it very much. I used to do it like Fernando and was on both my feet and just thought about a low target. Feel like I got a little bit more mobility, even though I don't have to worry about blocking pitches or moving around very much. That gives me a chance to sway a little bit and moving around and catching that ball. It's just a little bit easier. But the one knee does allow me to get underneath that low pitch a little bit better. It also takes a little bit of pressure off my legs. So I've got no problem with the one knee. Our catchers are all using this and utilizing it. Usually that left knee is the one that's down just so that catching elbow doesn't have anything to clang against, because you can see Fernando with both feet down on the ground, that left elbow is going to clang into that left knee from time to time. So that's the other thing the one knee stance does for you, is it frees up that catching hand, that catching arm to be able to move around and catch freely. Now, our next one is our secondary stance. Our secondary stance is our ready position. Guys get on base. There's 2 strikes on the hitter. I got to be ready to block. I got to be ready to throw. I like to tell my guys, you have to be ready to go right, left, up or down evenly. So think about an extended basketball stance. I'm playing defense in basketball. I'm just a little bit lower than I got to be low enough for the umpire to see, but I'm in an athletic position. And I'm ready to go. If we go back to our primary stance, look at their throwing hand. The throwing hand is protected. I call that your money maker. You can't make any money if you break your hand. If you get a foul tip and you break a finger, you can't hit, you can't throw, you can't play. So I'm trying to protect that thing as much as possible. It's back behind their right calf and it's protected. The other thing that we talk about with the throwing hand is that thumb is tucked inside your hand. So it's not a fist, it's just a shield, a light shield, thumb inside just to protect it. So when we go back to the secondary, you can see that throwing hand has now come out behind that glove, because I want my hands to work together when I block and when I throw. So that's the difference from the primary and the secondary as far as the throwing hand goes. I like to bring that hand out. You'll see catchers put it in different positions, and you can see Fernando and Corey are a little bit different, but I don't like it to be behind me in my secondary because it makes too much ground to cover when I have to go block or when I have to throw. So I want my hands together in my secondary position. It's right back behind my glove and it's protected. When the ball comes in, when I'm catching, I'm not catching two-handed. That hand just comes back to the chest, kind of where Corey has it there. He's the guy on the right. You can see how that hand is already against his chest. When Fernando catches it on the left, as he's catching the ball, he'll just bring the ball back to his chest. So foul tips hit you in the mask. They hit you in the feet. They rarely hit you in the chest. So that's going to keep your hand protected. Also, you're going to have some padding back behind it against your chest protector. So those are your three stances: your signal calling, your primary, and your secondary. Now, when we go into our receiving drills, the first drill that I always do is the face-off drill. And I always talk about how when I was in basketball, the first thing we always did in basketball practice was smack the ball. And our coach would, hey, smack the ball, wake your hands up, wake your hands up. That's what this is. We're going to be in an athletic stance. We're going to move the ball around a little bit, and we're going to compete. So Fernando and Corey are about 5 feet apart, and they're tossing it back and forth. They're in an athletic position, and they're just moving it around. You can see how their feet are moving. Their feet are moving just to make sure that they're just being athletic. They're not stationary. They're not in a standstill. They're just moving around. Now, the next drill we do, I call it wall ball. And this is something that you can do at home. Jason Varitek, a Northeastern guy up there, a guy that played for the Red Sox, I kind of stole this from him a little bit. He used to do this in the hotel room. He used to get a tennis ball and throw the ball off the wall. Drove the guy next to him crazy in the room next door to him. But that was just something he did to help soften his hands. So a wall ball, what we're going to do is, this is a solo drill. We've got Fernando and Corey, and they're just tossing the ball back and forth. They're not in any kind of hurry. They're just waking their hands up, moving the ball around, throwing it in different positions. They don't have to throw it in the same spot every single time. They go from their primary and then into their secondary stance. So they're just trying to get some reps. Again, you can find a wall at the house. You can find a ball at the high school, or find a wall at the high school where you can do this drill and make sure that you're getting reps. Then we can just go one-hop drills. Johnny Bench, one of my favorite players growing up, Johnny Bench was really good at picking the baseball. So you can do this from your primary stance. You can do it from your secondary stance, but just work on picking the baseball. And this is a softer ball. This is called the Featherlight ball. So the Featherlight baseball is just a little bit softer, and it's made by Baden, B-A-D-E-N, and it looks like a bigger golf ball, but it's just soft. It comes off that wall a little bit easier, and it makes it tougher to catch. It softens those hands up. That's the Featherlight ball that we use for wall ball. All right, now I'm going to get back behind Fernando right here, and we're going to start the drill. He doesn't know where this ball is going. He's got to react to it. So this is more game-like. We can do this a little bit faster. I can get 6 balls in my hand and go faster and kind of do a juggle drill. But what I'm doing here is just trying to get reps. He doesn't know where it's going, and he's just reacting. I can do it from the primary. I can do it from the secondary. We can also work on our footwork. We can also do blocking drills like this where they're reacting as much as they can. And just because in a game, I don't know where that ball's going. When the ball leaves the hand, I have no idea where that ball's going. So that gives me a chance to react. The next drill we're going to do is called a rapid fire drill. And I stole this from a coach, 25 years ago at a convention out in San Diego, California. Saw a high school coach. I wish I could remember his name, but saw this drill and loved it. We're trying to get as many reps as possible with this drill. The first one is the juggle rapid fire. I've got 6 balls in my hand. Again, I'm using the Featherlight balls right here, and I'm just going to juggle. So one after the other, they're just going to go one after the other. I've got 18 balls out there, so 3 reps. I sometimes get a whole bucket. I get 100 reps really, really quick. So that's the juggle. The next one is the backhand. This one's a little bit more challenging as a coach. Your catcher has to be pretty advanced, and you don't have to really worry too much about his technique. This is to get reps for him. I got to keep my head down to get rid of these balls because I'm transferring these balls from the ground to my hand into the air, and I'm not watching what he's doing because I'm trying to go as fast as I can and also try to move this ball around a little bit. So you can see with Corey, I'm not throwing the same spot. It's tough. They're one after the other. We just got 18 reps really, really fast right there. I'll rewind that. We'll play it one more time. I'm just trying to go as fast as I can, and we're getting reps. That's rapid fire backhand drill right there. All right, now machine frame, you've got to get these guys in game like as much as possible. So obviously they should be catching in the bullpen to work on their technique and their different stances in their primary and their secondary. But also I get off the machine. So we use the Hack Attack Junior. I wear this thing out. We can use different pitches. We use the different stances. We also use the wrist weights. And this is something I stole off of Tom Griffin at Carson Newman. And Tom does a great job and puts out a lot of stuff on social media. I encourage you to follow him. And I saw him do this, and I just thought it was genius because our forearms and our shoulders, they get a little bit tired when I'm receiving. So let's get them stronger. So everybody's got these wrist weights laying around their house somewhere. I think when I was a kid, my mom and dad had these around, and I used to mess around with them all the time. So these old school wrist weights, these are 2.5 pounds. You can see Corey's kind of showing it to you. Fernando's wearing it, and it's just on their catching hand wrist. And this just allows them to get a little bit of strength training while they're doing their receiving. Now the machine frame. We're in the primary stance right here, and I'm just using this one after the other. These are the fastballs. You can see how Fernando's getting underneath the baseball, got a little bit of movement up. I'm not a big proponent of all the motion, of all the movement that you're seeing right now out of catchers in the big leagues. I'll rewind that. We'll watch it again. Watch how he's underneath the baseball. And the ball's moving up, but we're not moving that ball up 3 feet. And we've seen that a lot here lately. These catchers are taking these balls at the ankles and bringing them up to the chin. I'm just going to move that ball slightly. You can see I moved it around a little bit. Don't throw it in the same spot every single time. That's with the fastball. Now I'm going to use the breaking ball. Same thing. Corey starts with his hand underneath the ball and then works up through it. Try to work up through it. And he goes to a secondary stance, and we're going to get the same reps right here. 6 reps. One after the other. Get underneath the ball. When the ball hits your glove, should have a little bit of upward movement, not a lot. All right. Don't try to move too much. And when we're talking about receiving, and we go back to what we're doing here with the frame, the different pitches, the different stances, when we're talking about receiving the ball, I want to limit my movement. I want to be as quiet as possible. And I don't want to be really loud. I want to be as quiet as possible. We're going to get underneath that low pitch. The pitch to the right and the left and the pitch on top, I'm just going to try to get around that baseball like I'm driving a car. I'm trying to get around it this way and get that ball so it's facing the strike zone. And I don't want to have a lot of movement. I don't want to be moving the ball too much because to me, I think when umpires see too much movement, they automatically think ball. So I might steal a strike every once in a while, but I also might get a pitch that is a strike that's low. And if I move it too much, I might fool them into calling it a ball. So I'm trying to be as subtle as possible and not moving too much with my movements or with my glove. All right, now getting back into our throwing drills, we're going to start with one knee. All right, one knee, we're going to be as fundamental as possible. We're going to be working on our form and our technique. And I talk about being efficient with our transfer. And efficient with our transfer means when the ball's hitting the glove, it's going into my hand immediately. And then I'm going to follow through. So before we start throwing every single day, this is what we do just as technique. We get on one knee, we're about 15 feet apart, and we're just going to be really fundamental. We're going to catch the ball, we're going to transfer it, we're going to take it to where it's supposed to go, and then we're going to follow through. So I'm playing catch with Fernando here, and we're just working on catching it, transferring it, and getting it where it's supposed to go. Get it in your hand as soon as possible. Don't leave it in that glove. I want to transfer it and get it into my glove. That's our one knee drill. Our next drill is our transfer drill. I got to work on quick hands. Talking about transfer again, it's got to be clean. When that ball hits the glove, it's got to go to the hand immediately. I'm not moving my feet in this drill. We can do it with our feet, but in this drill right here, we're keeping our feet stationary. Again, we're about 15, 20 feet apart. We're bending our knees, and we're just working on getting rid of the ball as quickly as possible. Remember when you were a kid, you played hot potato? That's what this is. If you don't transfer it cleanly and efficiently, you're not going to have a chance to throw anybody out. So me and Fernando, again, we're just working on getting rid of the baseball as quickly as possible. We're not moving our feet. I'm not worried about moving my shoulders here. I'm just worried about working my hands. Think about your hands